Well, Ryan Presley will not be a Houston Astro this next year. He heads to Chicago. The Astros send money, and they get back Juan Bello, one of the most underrated prospects in the Chicago Cubs system. We'll talk about this, the bullpen implications, and does this open the door for Alex Bregman? Let's talk about it right now.
Jainel Diaz, this is Locked On Astros.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Astros, your daily Astros podcast. Here are your hosts, Eric the Man Huysman and Brett H-Town Wheelhouse Chancey.
We are Locked On Houston Astros. We hope that you join us for a daily Locked On Astros podcast. My name is Eric Huysman. You can find me on X at Eric Talkstros. Find the show at Locked On Astros. Your team every day. Brett, where can I find you at?
They can find me at H-Town Wheelhouse on X, Instagram, and TikTok, at Stros411 on X and on Facebook, and at Back to the Bullpen on X, on Instagram, on iHeartRadio and YouTube. Look, where I'm always positive, always Stros. That's Stros with the Z.
Guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go ahead and check us out. Go ahead and subscribe to us. We're trying to get to 14,000 subscribers now. So go and help us get to that on YouTube. All you have to do is hit the little red button down there that says subscribe. Go and give us a big fat thumbs up while you're doing it. And today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. So, Brett, we want to just kind of just mention that it is not, we know for sure that it is not, it's not final. Nothing's final yet. The trade has to be he has to pass a physical, and then then we'll, once it's official, we'll know what the official prospect is and the amount of money that's actually going back into Cubs. So this is not about the prospect. Juan Bello, we'll talk about him in a second. But this is more about freeing up some money to possibly to get under the luxury tax threshold. And if you do happen to bring in somebody like maybe Alex Bregman, you don't get over that second luxury tax threshold. That was what this whole trade was about.
Yeah, exactly. And, Ryan Presley has been holding up whether or not he wants to, move out of Houston. His kids have been born here. He has made his home here. They live here year round. You have a lot of players that will live in different cities. They'll play in one city, live in another. But Ryan Presley, their kids, they have grown accustomed to the Houston area. And, he put the no trade clause in there for a reason. He likes the club. I mean, he threw the final out for the 2022 World Series. He was on the mound when that happened. And Ryan Presley has really given his heart and soul to this team and has been an absolute legend on the bump for the Astros. And it was, I guess, sort of a wake-up call as to where the Astros valued him when they brought in Josh Hader and paid him that large salary. You have a guy who's been one of the top closers to bring in the top closer to say, well, he's still the closer, and Josh Hader will pitch the eighth. Well, we all knew that was kind of hogwash. That was just a lot of, just mentioning stuff to mention stuff. I don't know. I think sometimes these ball clubs messaging is really messed up, and they don't want to hurt people's feelings. But look, the bottom line is you knew when Hader came in that Presley was being demoted. With that being said, Presley could have said, you know what, guys, I don't want to go anywhere. I want to finish this year out, and he probably would have been a dog on the mound. But now he joins Kyle Tucker in Chicago. They are the Houston Astros North Division, and it's weird because we had heard a little bit of rumors here and there that the Cubs were thinking about bringing up Bregman. And I was like, oh my gosh, can you imagine Bregman, Presley, and Tucker all in the Cubs? But Presley waiving the no trade clause frees up money. Like you said, the money, we don't know how much it is right now, but they're sending money because the Cubs were like, hey, we're not paying all $14 million. So this is a good deal for the Cubs. They're getting Kyle Tucker on 1 year on a discount. So the Cubs are really becoming one of the teams that have made these moves, and it's good for the Astros, especially if they're going to make Jose Altuve happy. Did you hear what Jose Altuve said this weekend? I felt kind of bad for him. He goes, I was full of hope, and then I lost all hope, and now I'm in the middle, and I'm like, Quit toying with the man's heart. Jose Altuve is the heart of Houston. You better treat this man right. You better bring back Bregman. And I know a lot of people are out on Bregman. I know a lot of people are like, forget him, whatever. And we'll talk about that in the last segment. But Ryan Presley opening up the door to be traded gets you salary freed up. But Eric, it also creates a more glaring problem. Our bullpen is now thinner than it was yesterday.
Yes, sure. And I do want to clarify something. He actually had the no trade rights as being a 10-5 player, being a 10-year veteran and 5 years, years with the same team. So, but according to John Heyman, they don't know exactly how much money is going yet. But what John Heyman hears is if he passes physical and the trade goes through, that not only is he can get a new no trade clause with the Cubs for this season, but he's also going to get a what they call it's like basically some extra money to make up for the extra taxes that he'll be paying.
Like a cost of living adjustment, huh?
Sort of something like that. So, yeah, so that's what John Heyman reported. So once this goes through, and a lot of people did mention, like you said, Bob Nightingale, a lot of people said that this does open the door for Alex Bregman to return. And a lot of people are like, well, it's only $14 million. Well, let's just say that the Astros do have to send $2 million to the Cubs to help with that. That's $12 million you get to save, and that will get them underneath the luxury tax threshold for now. And like I said, let's say you do sign Alex Bregman for maybe $26 to $28 million per year. Maybe you have to go to 30. I don't know. I don't think the Astros are going to go that high, but that would allow them stay. I think Jim Crane, for the right player, he's willing to go over the luxury tax threshold. But if it's, I don't think he's going to want to go be a second-time offender going over the second bracket, and that's what you would do if you didn't do this Presley trade and sign Alex Bregman.
See, I honestly don't think they budge at all on their offer with Alex Bregman. And here's why I don't think they go up on the 26, Eric, because nobody else has offered him a long-term deal. The only deals he's been offered or we've heard. Okay, so we don't know that we know. We've heard the 3-year deal, the opt-out, all that stuff, the kind of Carlos Correa syndrome, I would call it. You know, Carlos Correa had his eyes wide open, and Scott Boras had him out there. And, you know, and Carlos Correa is like, if you want to pay me and give me that bag, I'll take it. Well, nobody was willing to take it. Then the physical thing came out. Someone actually asked me an interesting question that I didn't think about, and I'm pretty sure I answered it correctly. He asked me, do you think the gremlins that Bregman dealt with last year in his arm, remember the gremlins in his arm?
Oh, yeah.
Elbow, is that something that has shied people away from the long-term deal? And in all his off-season workouts and all the off-season training I've seen him doing, I think if that was an issue, you would have been seeing a lot of commentary on that. So I don't think that's an issue. It's not that's an issue. It's not injuries. It's simply at his age, teams not wanting to give him 7 years. But the Astros deal, the Astros offer is still a very honorable deal. It's not a bad deal, Eric. And if he comes back, Jose Altuve said, I am willing to do whatever it takes to bring Alex Bregman back. So I'm like, so, you know, what could the story twist anymore, Eric? I mean, this is crazy. I didn't see this coming today.
I mean, I think you kind of saw it happening pretty soon. I think when you ask a player to waive their no trade clause, they typically take, I would say, 24 to 48 hours to make that decision. Cat Presley put out a tweet or whatever you call it on X, but basically said that this was a hard decision for them. Houston will be forever their home. But this was a decision they felt that was the best for their family to go ahead and do this. And so she thanked Houston. So this was hard because their kids grew up here, and they'll probably still live here, but they'll probably have to have something going on in Chicago because he'll be playing half the year in Chicago. But this is a move. We'll talk about Juan Bello in a second, what he offers the Astros. We'll go and talk about we'll go further into what Jose Altuve said, what a lot of the coaches and players said about Altuve possibly playing the outfield. We'll talk about that and on this edition of the Locked On Astros podcast.
This episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app today and use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Game Time is always there. I mean, they should be called On Time because every time I need tickets to Game Time, they are on time. They are there. It is easy to use. You download the app, 2 clicks, and you've got the tickets in your phone. You don't have to rubber your email, your junk email, or your spam folder. They're right there. Whether it's baseball, concerts, basketball, football, it doesn't matter the event. They've got you covered. It's not just in your city. I mean, you can look all over Game Time if you're going on a trip. So check it out today. Game Time is the only place I go with zone deals, with views from my seat, with the guarantee that they have the lowest price. If you find a lower price for the same section, same row on a different page, they will credit you 110% the difference. Make sure that you know that terms do apply, but download the Game Time app, create an account, use the code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create the account and redeem the code LOCKEDONMLB, LOCKED on MLB for $20 off. Download the Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest prices, guaranteed.
Hey guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts. Go and check us out. Thank you, Larry, the GM. He came out and said that we all know that the first CBT is 241 million. So Larry said that the CBD2 was 261. So that means it's 20 million over the first threshold. So that is why the Astros had to make this move. They had to give themselves some wiggle room. That way, if they did go out and sign Alex Bregman, then they could still stay underneath that 261 million mark. So just doing the math as Greg Little did here. So we were at 244 but before the trade. Let's say that you take away the 10 million, that's about 234. So depending on what you could do there to sign Alex Bregman, you'll probably still be underneath that CBT2, because I think that's definitely something you want to avoid, because that's steeper penalties and prospects. Draft picks and everything.
Well, Eric, and this brings into the discussion where I hear people say it all the time. And now I may have said it and just forgotten, but the old line, well, it's not my money. What do I care what they spend? But you've got to think about this from Jim Crane's perspective. When you go into these CBT thresholds, you are taking money from the club, revenue money, in form of a tax. And we're talking like 40, 60 million. This is a lot of money. This is not a cheap, CBT2, no big deal. No, you don't understand. It is revenue. It is what you get from the gates, all that stuff, the receipts. And so if a club is going to remain competitive, they can't just throw money into the wind like caution. They can't just throw it away. And yes, there is some discussion to be had about owners spending more of their money. When you see teams like the Pirates making like 2 or 3 billion one season a couple years ago, and they're the Pirates, you're like, surely they could spend more on payroll. But the Cubs, though, traded to us a kid named Juan Bello. Now, Juan Bello he was actually in 2024 was rated as the most underrated prospect in the Cubs organization. Okay. Prospects Live's very respectable group. And I got a little blurb about him here real quick. He has a pitch mix with plenty of depth to warrant the starter development path, and he's expected to add a few ticks more for velocity on his fastballs as his frame matures. Now, his big, the big thing he's working on is his off-speed stuff. He doesn't throw his off-speed stuff in the zone. He has a hard time zoning those pitches. And so the Astros player development, the Astros pitching development is one of the best, if not the best, in Major League Baseball in developing pitchers. This kid's frame is great. He can fire in the fastballs. He's 20 years old. He's got a really high ceiling. And so I think what the Astros got here is a diamond in the rough. And if you look back at guys like Fromberg, different guys that we've developed through our system, you've seen success. So someone asked me, why didn't we get a top 10 guy? Well, this is Ryan Presley. He's got 1 year left. He is an aging closer. He's being paid $14 million. It's not like you traded them, Mason over there from Sacramento or Oakland, whatever you want to call it. And this guy's got all this like value, right? You needed the salary dump to happen. And Ryan Presley, quite frankly, was not going to be happy here, I don't think. But this Juan Bello kid, as you look into him, there's a lot of things to be excited about. There's a few things to be desired, but those things to be desired, I think our player development system is going to work wonders with him, as he seemed to be very successful in his first whole season in the minors.
I know that in 2023, his walk rate was a little high, 8.31 walks per 9 innings, but his strikeouts were pretty high that season, 10.38. He's a 9.7, 9.13 the other 2 seasons. So he's definitely somebody that is going to learn how to miss a lot of bats in the big leagues, but he is only in A ball. So it's going to be probably next year. He is a starter he does a majority of his games have been starts. So he is somebody that's probably going to be a project, but the Astros, like you said, have done a good job of finding diamonds in rough, and as to your phrase. And I think that maybe this is a guy that they may be targeted, but at the same time, you're not going to get that top 10 guy and get the Cubs to take on a big portion of Ryan Presley's salary. So you got to take that into consideration. So that's why that's why you get the 31st overall prospect versus a top 10 in this case.
Yeah, exactly. And actually, to make a couple points, Larry's coming in strong today. He said we got a lottery ticket. That's really, I think, what we are trying to hit on here on the show. And he's basically saying Presley had negative trade value. That's why we're paying part of his salary. That's an excellent point. But we have grades for these pitchers, right? And right now, his present grade for fastball and slider are both at 40. He's projected to be a 50 grade. His curveball is a 45, projected to be a 55 grade. His changeup and his command are at 40. He's projected to be a 50 grade. He tops out at 91. His projection is 92. So he's not going to wow you with this 96, 97, 98 mile an hour stuff. But what we've learned about baseball is it's about location, location, location. And if you can get that ball moving in the zone, okay, and you can miss bats and you can create swings and misses, this is a kid that, like I said, has a high upside. And so you definitely want to get his frequency of those pitches in the zone, like we said, more than 39% in the zone. But I think over time, this kid's 20 years old, 6'1", solid frame, good pitcher, did great in Myrtle Beach. And I am excited. He may be one of these guys that maybe he gets to Corpus sooner rather than later, but he won't be a guy that touches the major leagues. But Eric, that begs the question. I know we're talking about Verdugo and another outfielder and all that stuff. Let's put the outfielder thing aside. Are we going to go get any relievers, or are we just got to have a Gusto or Van Way or some of these guys come up and depend on them, which makes it tough because you bring in minor league guys who are unproven.
I think with what they're having to do, they're having to fix the outfield basically right now. And I don't know if the Astros have the answer right now in outfield. So that's why they're looking at doing something with Bregman, bringing Bregman in. And so we'll have to go and talk about that in a second. But guys, thank you for making us your first list on the Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to. Let's go and choose us. All right, guys, we are back. We're going to continue this conversation. I know Alex Bregman is a big topic in Houston. I mean, somebody joked that even 6'10" was talking about baseball the other day instead of the Texans. And so a lot of big things going on there, a lot of firings, but people are talking about Alex Bregman because we all want to have Alex Bregman back. I know the Astros made a lot of shrewd moves. I know that I was talking to a lot of friends last night, and we're saying that Dana Brown did exactly what he should have done. He didn't get handcuffed by Scott Boras. He actually said, okay, well, this is our best offer. We're going to go ahead and move on, do our contingency plans. And now he has Christian Walker and he has Isaac Paredes there. And so there's really not, on paper, there's not room. But you have somebody like Altuve that has been campaigning literally all offseason. I want Alex Bregman back. This guy is a winner. This guy is a big part of this team. And for him to actually at FanFest this week and say, yeah, I will do anything to get Alex Bregman back. If it takes me going to play the outfield, I'll go do that. And somebody said, well, have you ever played the outfield before? And he joked around and said, have you seen me? And so
someone posted a picture of the Crawford boxes and Altuve jumping for a ball, and they put the little Altuve on top of the Crawford boxes. They're like, he's making that catch.
Yeah. I saw somebody put him on stilts as well. But
well, here's the thing. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I've got an idea, but go ahead. I don't know. I
know a lot of people are worried about that, but I think like Michael Schwab said, and a few other people have said, he's not going to be the everyday left fielder. You're going to have Alvarez out there in left field. You're going to have other people out there. He's going to play some second base. He's going to play some DH. So this is just a way to, if you have enough bats where you need to move people around, that's a good thing. To bring somebody like Alex Bregman back and put him at third base. Now, the only concern is that elbow, like you're talking about, that maybe hampered him at the end of last year. But if the Astros think he's healthy enough and he feels like he's healthy enough, I say go for it. I know a lot of people are like, well, trade Paredes. Have you seen what Paredes can do in this ballpark? This ballpark was made for him and Christian Walker. So these two guys need to stay on this roster. Paredes is not going into the outfield. There's got to be some way to manipulate things. And I know Altuve's arm is not ideal in the outfield, but he's got the speed. You can find some way to make it happen.
Are you saying that if Altuve tracks a ball down to the visitor's bullpen, that he's not throwing a guy out at home? Where's your faith? Where's your faith in my guy, Jose Altuve? But seriously, if Alex Bregman comes back, then HEB, what they need to do is create a commercial, and they need to use the song "I'll Do Anything But Love, But I Won't Do That" by Meatloaf. And they need to have Jose Altuve and Alex Bregman. If HEB uses that commercial, you come to me, and I need to make sure that I get some royalties off of that. I've been thinking about that all day. When he said, I will do what it takes to bring back Alex Bregman, there's going to have to be a shirt for that, because we had this shirt when he said, I literally love Justin Verlander, right? But seriously, Jose Altuve, I believe when he says it with all his heart and his full chest, like, he makes this club better. He's a clutch guy. Like, he's been a big contributor, and he has been a mainstay in this dynasty where everybody else has left, and him and Altuve. So all the people saying, forget about that, all that stuff. You know what? I think it would be great to have him back. I think this lineup, your top 7, all of a sudden your 8 and 9 aren't as glaring of a problem. But yeah, it's going to create a lot of different looks that we're going to see on this team. And it will be interesting to see how they platoon Altuve and Yordan, home versus away. But yeah, this is going to be interesting to see what happens. Because I saw one rumor that I hated, and it said the Dodgers were trying to get Alex Bregman. And I'm like, absolutely not. And it was that Dodgers Nation podcast, a real big podcast out there in LA. Yeah. Like, there's no way he goes to LA.
I think there's some leaks probably going out there to try Scott Boras try and get the teams that are interested to give him a little bit more money. But I think I'm going to top your HEB commercial suggestion. I think that what they need to do is have Jose Altuve, Alex Bregman, if he comes back, maybe Paredes, and maybe one other random person being in the outfield and learning how to catch fly balls in the outfield, and have it like some type of Gatorade or some type of like Gatorade quench your thirst type of thing.
Yeah. Okay.
And spring training, we got to go to HEB after this and we got to go get our Gatorade or whatever it is, but have them all try to shag balls in the outfield and it just kind of play off that.
Hey, look, here's the
trial.
deal. I'm all for HEB hiring Locked On Astros to help them come up with creative ideas. I've got a lot of creative ideas. Trust me. I think that'd be a solid move on their part. And hey, maybe we get some bennies from it, maybe some free HEB tortillas or something like that. But Eric, cracking the door open for Alex Bregman and Alex Bregman coming back to Houston. And this is a question I've wondered. I haven't really seen anybody ask it, and maybe it's kind of a moot point, but does this create strain in his relationship with Boris if he doesn't get what he thought he could get or what Boris maybe tried to convince him? Because I have seen several people say, well, if he returns to Houston, he's firing Boris. I'm like, well, not exactly, because he'll take the best offer that he got, and he still got 26. And dude, what he got offered, $156 million. I remember when Carlos Correa was being offered the money and he didn't want the first offer. And people are like, he doesn't want 150. He wants 300 million. He wants generation changing wealth. I'm like, if 150 million is not generation changing wealth, I don't know what is. Like I don't get it at this point. But look, if he comes back, Eric, I'm all for it. I still got my back-to-back bobblehead. I want to see more back-to-back home runs with him and Jordan. I think it would be good for this team.
Yeah, I know that Dana Brown was asked about Alex Bregman, and he said that's why I put the cracked Bregman, the door to get Bregman is crack. He thinks that it's a very much a long shot, but that's kind of what as a GM, you're supposed to kind of not say, oh yeah, it's at the finish line, it's all ready to go. He's gonna be Astro for life like he did before. You have to kind of hide your cards, just kind of make it where people can't guess, because other teams are still trying to offer contracts. And I know a lot of people are saying, well, maybe the Tigers probably should have put their best foot forward. Maybe other teams should have probably put their best foot forward. But it's really, I don't know if it's Scott Boras's fault. I think that, yes, he was trying to do what Alex Bregman wanted him to do to make him the most money. The market just never materialized for Bregman. And so the teams are saying, you're good, Alex Bregman, but you're not worth what you're asking for. And so that's what's going on here. And then the number of teams that need a third baseman have dwindled, and the teams that need it, they don't have the room to go out there and get that. So yes, Scott Boras has messed things up, but at the same time, he was doing what his client wanted. True. He's working for his client. So yeah, I think this could work out for the Astros in the long term, because they've never said, okay, well, we're going to go ahead and take our contract away. They want him to come back. He wants to come back. It just depends on how much. And I saw somebody say, well, maybe lowball him. You're not going to go lower than the contract that they already offered.
Let me tell you, if Bregman comes back, it's going to be the deal they offered him. They're not going to go up. They're not going to go down. Nobody else has offered him this deal at this length. It's not changing. It is as set in stone, etched in stone as it can be. Now, Larry the GM actually did mention this earlier. He said he thinks the Astros are going to go after someone like Dylan Carlson. He thinks that Dylan Carlson would be more likely than Alex Bregman. Dylan Carlson would shore up someone in the outfield, would be a player that I think still has a high upside. He's still, he's not an old player. And so that might be something that happens. And I think the reason why a lot of us acquiesce and go straight back to Bregman is because I think it's a little bit of a heartstring thing. It's a little bit of you become attached to a player. Someone in here said, look, why did we get rid of Kyle Tucker? Well, you're not going to pay Kyle Tucker $300 to $400 million. Number one. Number two, he had 1 year left. And for the first time, he did what Astros fans have asked. Instead of letting a guy walk for nothing, why don't we get something for him? And they got a very good trade for him. Could they maybe have pushed the envelope and gotten a little bit higher prospect? I don't know. Maybe. But we got Cam Smith, and Cam Smith is being invited to big league camp. And so I like where the Astros are with that trade. The question is, what do they do? Where does Alex Bregman end up? And I think if he doesn't end up in Houston, Eric, I think he ends up in Boston. I think the Tigers are out. I don't think he ends up in Toronto. There's no way he goes out to LA. I would be shocked. I think Boston and Houston are the only two places that I see him playing, to be honest.
Yeah, so guys, I do want to caution y'all. We don't really know what the exact deal is. Ari Alexander is the only person I said that I've seen that said Juan Bello is coming back to the Astros in that trade. So we'll have to see when the smoke clears what happens. But at least we know that Presley has waived the no trade clause, and now we can move forward. And I think that this has been kind of holding. I don't want to say the whole offseason, but I think Dana Brown has been kind of handcuffed to Presley, trying to offload that contract. Now that he's done that, he can focus on other things.
Yeah, exactly. Sorry, you saw me, scatting out of the picture there. My dog was barking. We have visitors coming into the house, and he likes to let us know when people are here. They're not supposed to be here. So Milo, you're not a watchdog. Stop. Anyway, but hey, Eric, this is a great show. I mean, hey, it gave us cool stuff to talk about. Right. I hated not being at Fan Fest this week, and I know you and I usually make it there, but we had more important things to do. We had things to do with family and friends, and so that was fun. But check out all the quotes that people put up there. What Altuve said. I know Javier was interviewed, and just to mention something real quick, they basically confirmed that McCullers and Garcia will not be ready opening day, but I think they'll be ready sooner rather than later. So maybe you see them around May or June. You could see those guys. So we got some starting pitching coming back, and those guys may fill those relief roles that we think that they're short on.
Yeah, I think that's the case, and I think the Astros did what they needed to do. And so I think that what you also saw was a lot of people reacting. Like I know Jeremy Pena said, "Oh no, I can't see Jose Altuve in the outfield. That sounds weird." And other players I think Eric Getty was like, "No, I can't see anybody besides number 27 over there at playing second base." But I just think that he'll do whatever. He'll literally do whatever it takes to get it done. And I know Espada said that they have talked about him, and Dana Brown have talked about this, and they have the plan in place what to do in case they do sign Bregman. So they haven't really talked about that yet.
Sorry about that. Yes, and look, I think this season's going to have plenty of storylines. Again, I think the floor for this team is the division, and I think everything else is icing on the cake. Who knows if Alex Bregman returns? This has been a great show. Whether we get Dylan Carlson or Alex Bregman, whether we win another World Series this year or not, who knows? You know what? I say, why not go into the season and with the goal of getting to the World Series and beating the super team that is the Los Angeles Dodgers? I'm here for it.
Okay, guys, thank you for making us your first listen on Apple, Odyssey, Spotify, wherever you listen to your podcast. Go and check us out. We'll be back tomorrow. Probably talk about the details of the trade, and if there's any other news, we'll come in and talk about that. But guys, thank you for subscribing to us, and we'll see you later. And Brett, what do we always say?
Go Stros.
Go Stros. We'll talk to you later.
The hearts don't go up anymore, man. Thanks, Apple, for the update.